Years ago, the best medical minds at the time believed it was a good practice to drain people's blood to get them better. In the 19th century, one of the founders of modern medicine, Louis Pasteur, was accused of being in league with the devil. Today, there are increasing numbers of natural healers, but many doctors remain sceptical. Let's meet one of Ireland's best-known healers, Michael O'Doherty. How are you, Paul? I'm fine. Great to see you, Michael. Thank you for coming. Many healers say that we're surrounded by an invisible energy. Is that true?
Yes, Paul, that's true. Each one of us is made up of energy. This energy vibrates through our body and it emanates from the centre of the body through channels outside the body, basically creating an electromagnetic field, or what's called an aura.
Now, when you're healing somebody, are they aware of that? Do they get some sensation?
Some people will feel a sensation like a heat, tingling, coolness, or a magnetic pull.
Could you demonstrate that on me?
Yes, basically the energy field surrounds your body, obviously. So we use these series of movements to begin to X-ray this energy field and begin to feel where there are blockages or imbalances in the energy system. And then, of course, we begin to use various movements to begin to balance the field out.
Oh, hang on, I can feel something unusual there. Felt like I was being pulled back, yeah. Now, I could resist that, but I could just feel a gentle
pull.
Yeah.
And basically what's actually happening, there's an interaction of energy taking place, and my hands just act like a magnet. We're realigning the electromagnetic field. We're also reaffirming the natural flow of energy through the body, and once we do this, we're creating the internal environment to allow the body to heal, and that's ultimately the purpose of it.
Fascinating. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Paul.
Now I suspect we are going to upset a few conventional medical minds as we go to County Clare in Ireland, where Michael and his colleagues have built huge reputations with an approach to treating disease that simply baffles modern medicine. Anne Mockler went to Michael O'Doherty with polymyalgia rheumatica, a very painful disease which affects the muscles, often leaving the patient permanently bedridden.
The first thing I found was the circulation moving up and down on my face. And after about 3 months treatment, one night I came home and all the pains left like that. No more pains, no more aches. I was able to walk.
Hugh Rice had to give up work after a motorbike accident seriously damaged his lower spine and paralysed his left leg. Doctors told him he'd never walk again.
People say it's a miracle cure. At the end of the day, it boils down to two things, like it boils down to a lot of prayer and it boils down to bioenergy.
Jerry Keene's life changed dramatically following a car accident, which totally paralysed his right leg and badly damaged his lower back. He was in constant pain and could only walk with the aid of crutches.
I had 3 or 4 sessions with them and I found a great improvement. Crutches, everything gone, and eventually started to walk.
We have found that basically every illness has responded to this therapy, from people with asthma, depression, digestive disorders, various illnesses, people after strokes, serious accidents, and indeed even some of the very terminal illnesses, people have benefited from this therapy.
To treat their patients, the healers claim to manipulate the invisible electromagnetic field which they believe surrounds the body with a series of specially developed hand movements. They say that a strong field makes for a healthy body, but any gaps, holes, or interference indicates a problem or illness. They detect those weak spots through their psychic ability or extrasensory perception.
We've wanted just to scan our hand near a person. We can feel all the electrical impulses. And where we find a blockage, I usually feel it like a very strong tingling sensation. Sometimes like a very strong heat sensation or very cold.
When we feel that sensation, we then go into another series of movements to be able to restore the flow of life force energy to that area. And this life force energy is what carries the activation current into all of the cells. Without it, the cells tend to wind down and they'll often go into some kind of a disease process or maybe some kind of physical or emotional abnormality. But once the energy flow is restored in an area, then the life process will generally take care of itself.
Demand for the treatment, which takes between 3 weeks and 3 months and costs up to £50 a session, is now so high in Ireland that the healers often hire large venues for open clinics, with up to 15 healers working at a time. Eddie Duggan is currently receiving regular treatment.
My son Eddie had an accident. He was hit from behind by a car that mounted a footpath, and he was very badly brain damaged. He was so badly brain damaged that the doctors said they didn't know what they'd save for us if they could save him.
When I'm being treated, I feel a sensation like pins and needles in my leg or shoulder. It's very hard to describe the sensation, but pins and needles would come closest to it.
Since we've taken him to bioenergy, he has improved immensely. He has full use of his left arm, which he did not have. He is standing and he is walking. He walks all the time as a walking frame.
Our hands are like magnets, and the energy field is a magnetic field. So once we link with that energy field, people often feel being pulled back.
It's just like as if there was little ropes or something like that tied onto me. Like I just go back and I can't understand why.
The work at the Plexus Institute isn't a miracle cure by any means. It's simply catalytic in unfolding people's innate capabilities. Every person has within their body the ability to recover from serious illness, and all we do is unlock that capability.
A remarkable story. Well, that's all we have time for. Please join me again next week for another amazing journey into the world of the paranormal. Good night.
Dr. Jean Mandler explains what sort of memories our babies have.
Well, when babies are born, they don't have any memory at all. They have no past, and so they have to gradually accumulate one. They're storing information, of course. They're retaining information. They couldn't learn anything if they didn't. But it's information that they don't know they have, so to speak. So to learn how to suck, or to learn to become a better sucker, to learn how to crawl a little bit later, these are things that show the effects of experience, but that, and therefore show the effects of memory, but are not the sort of thing that we usually talk about.
It's not until the end of the first year that our babies start to have a memory where they can really recognize things and recall visual images and events in their minds, as Jacob shows in this test. He has to remember where a toy has been hidden.
Bye-bye cube in the box. The cube is in the box. This box is empty box.
Even though he is successfully distracted with a new toy, when Jacob is asked 20 minutes later where the cube is, he has no trouble at all in remembering.
Find the cube,
Where's the cube, Jacob?
Where's the cube?
Good
yes,
boy.
good
Well
boy.
Well
good
done.
Boy. Yes,
well done.
Very good. Very good.
In terms of being able to recall the past, think about the past, that's really important in order to help us manage the present. For example, if you're a little baby in bed at night and you wake up and it's dark and there's no one around, if you can't remember your mother, or you can't remember the bottle, or you can't remember any kind of comforting, and you feel awful, well, how do you know that isn't going to go on forever?
Now Tiffany plays happily in her cot when she wakes up, remembering that her mum will be in at any minute. So we obviously have memories as babies, But most of us can't remember anything before we were 2.
What I think it is, although this has not been shown definitely, but what I think it happens is that you don't have any way of getting at those memories, because we get so used to recalling the past in terms of verbal memories. Well, of course, the events of the first 2 years of life aren't associated with language, and no language is involved in taking in the information. So it's like we're going after them in the wrong way. Well, of course, the events of the first 2 years of life aren't associated with language, and no language is involved in taking in the information. Because one of the other things we know is that young babies are not storing the time and the place when things happen to them. So there's no stamp on it that says this is taking place in my house on such and such a street in such and such a town in the month of October. We don't do that sort of thing until we're considerably older.
Our baby's learning accelerates at the end of the first year as they can remember what they've seen us doing and put it into practice. But sometimes life's not that easy, and our babies come across situations they've never encountered before. They need to be able to solve problems.
Now watch very carefully. Okay. Where's it gone? Where's it gone?
Often babies are on their own and they want something and there's something in the way, there's an obstacle. So they've got a problem and they've got to solve it for themselves. And knowing a lot of things, copying things, you've got to do more than that. They need to think. And that's very difficult when you're only 9, 10 months old, and it's difficult even when you're a year old. And there are several things they need to do if they're going to be able to think for themselves and solve problems. And one is they've got to stop for a moment, rushing in, doing the first thing that grabs their attention.
Yeah, and cover it over. Where's it gone? Where's it gone?
By the end of the first year, babies are really good at searching under a cover. Hide a toy, you can make them wait, they keep their eye on it, push it towards them and they whip off the cover and find it. But if they do that a couple of times, and then you hide the toy under another cover, they'll look, they'll see a big lump there, but what happens is they go back to the first place. And what we see is this problem in flexibility. We know that they understand they're making a mistake, that they know really where it is, but they find it very hard to change what they've done. If it worked a moment ago, they simply run it off again and find it difficult to stop.
Do it again. Now you watch.
And sometimes they need to think a bit. Okay, not always, the answer isn't always there, ready in front of them. They need to think, sometimes they need to reason. So there's an awful lot of mental work that they have to do while they're trying to control themselves, while they're trying to remember what they did, what went wrong, do something new. And looking beyond the first year, by 18 months, they are getting very, very skilled at doing this because they can control themselves. They can stop doing the first thing that comes to mind. They can find a solution and they can remember what they've learned in other situations. So they get very, very skilled, very flexible at solving problems on their own. So one situation where it's really helpful for them to be able to think ahead is when babies start to crawl, because there's always something on the other side of the room they want to get to. And there's always things in the way.
Chloe.
So what younger babies do is they go straight from A to B and they go into the obstacle and they maybe climb up and stand there. And if they're lucky, they can find their way around, but often they need a bit of help and they can be encouraged to find the route around it.
Chloe gets there eventually with a bit of help from me. But only a few months later, babies can stop, think ahead and work out the problem with no trouble at all.
One of the reasons we know why all these changes are taking place towards the end of the first year is that babies' brain development is really beginning to take off. And in particular, it's this area of the brain, the frontal part of the brain, which we know is important for controlling behavior and allowing children to think ahead. So stopping yourself making an error, going back to the last place where you just found a toy, when you know it's hidden over here,
requires the control of this area of the brain. And being able to